Time now for Money Power Politics. The elections last week made it clear that voters care about affordability in this country, and some would call it an affordability crisis. But the administration, they're not hearing it. I want you to watch what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on our air this morning.
The economy under President Trump's been very resilient, and growth has exceeded expectations almost every quarter. We inherited an affordability crisis. We have slowed the price increases down, and they are going to continue to slow down. There are many aspects of affordability that have gotten better under President Trump. They're going to continue to get better. I do not believe that tariffs are a tax on consumers.
He doesn't believe it? Well, he's wrong, because they are. Let's level set here. What do we have right now? 3% inflation. Polls clearly showing Americans are unhappy with this economy. And tariffs? We still don't know the full impact of how bad they're going to hit us. But what we have seen so far, not good. The manufacturing renaissance promised is not happening, and the labor market only getting worse. As of August, the unemployment rate for 20 to 24-year-olds is 9.2%. Aside from COVID, it has not been this high since December of 2015. And the only message coming from corporate America, more job cuts are coming, courtesy of AI. So let's bring in my dear friend, Ron Insana, CNBC contributor and author of The Message of the Markets on Substack, and veteran Washington correspondent John Harwood. He's a distinguished fellow at Duke University and a columnist for Zateo, also on Substack. All right, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
The president is trying to convince Americans that the economy is better than they think it is. This is giving me President Biden deja vu.
Yep.
When the economy had an extraordinary post-COVID recovery, better than any other country in the developed world. However, people did not want to hear it from him, and I get it, because they were struggling. Yeah, is that not happening again here?
It is happening again. I mean, listen, GDP is growing faster than anticipated because of the infrastructure investments in artificial intelligence, and the top 20% of all wage earners are spending the bulk of their money to prop up the economy. Everybody else is struggling. Inflation, as you mentioned, 3% above a year ago. Food, 2.7% above a year ago. The president said gas is $2 a gallon. It's $3.08 nationally across the country. Electricity bills are up more than 6%. So they can say it all they want. The data are the data. Now, we haven't gotten any official government data.
But here's the
for
thing.
Months.
Even if we don't get official government data,
we know.
You and I know how much gas costs.
Yeah.
People know how much their grocery costs. They know what their electric bills. So, as important as government data is on these things, voters don't need the president to tell them. John, the president, it's not like he doesn't care about economic issues. Tomorrow night, he's hosting a private dinner with financial leaders at the White House. He cares about economic issues. But publicly, he said, I don't want to hear about affordability. I'm done talking about it. From a political perspective, this seems unwise. What's going on here?
Well, it's certainly unwise, but this is a president who has to feel good about the job that he's doing and assert that he's doing a great job, blame everything that's bad in the economy on Joe Biden. And that's why he says the affordability issue is a con job. The issue, as you and Ron have laid out, is that objectively, the economy is not in terrible shape. Unemployment's relatively low. Inflation's higher than it had been, 5 years ago, but it's not all that high. But we have seen that the economy is getting worse since Trump took office. And so they had this weird messaging thing where they have been saying all year, we inherited a disaster from President Biden. It's been getting worse, and they somehow have to make the argument that it's actually the golden age is on the verge of happening. It's really kind of incoherent.
It's really difficult, Ron. John's study is so beautiful. I have no interest in looking across the table at you. I really just want to stay.
Not the first time you've told me that.
Have a drink. It's just lovely there. But back to business. So circle this square for me, my friend, or wherever that silly
square the circle.
Square it. Yeah, do that. Scott Bessent says that tariffs help the consumers. If that were true, why would the president be floating this idea of sending the American people $2,000 checks? And why are we regularly granting exemptions to American companies that desperately need this? because the tariffs are killing their bottom line.
Because we've learned from history that tariffs are, in fact, not good for consumers, not good for business, not good for trade. We know all these things empirically. It's been studied for decade and decade after decade. And we know that just prior to the Trump presidency, the average tariff in the United States was 2.5%. It's now, according to the Yale Budget Lab, 17.9%, the highest since the mid-1930s. So it's not doing anybody any good. And if you have to refund $2,000 or spend $600 billion of the government's money, twice the amount they've raised in tariffs, to make people feel good about them, there's, as they say now these days, the math ain't mathin'.
I hate that.
I know. I do too.
You knew I hated it. Okay, John. Today,
Those checks aren't happening.
Today, the president said that the Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers as it relates to tariffs, and reversing his tariffs would cost our country $3 trillion in refunds and lost investments. Where did this number come from? What is it really?
He makes up numbers. You know, he said at various points, we've got $17 trillion of investment coming into the country. Howard Lutnick does the same thing. So does Scott Bessent. This is just talk that they have to try to gild the lily and make the situation look better than it actually is. You know, last week the president said in all caps on social media, tariffs mean life or death for this country. It's an absurd statement. It would be much better for him and for the United States if the Supreme Court struck down his tariff authority and he didn't try to reimpose them. But he's so committed to this policy, even if they do strike it down, he's likely to try to use other authority to reimpose tariffs. So this is a president who, in many ways, is disconnected from reality, economic reality, social reality in the country. And that's what we've got for another 3 years.
I disagree with you. I think tariffs are life or death for some American companies whose bottom lines are getting decimated by this. But let's talk about the labor market, because U.S. companies shed more than 11,000 jobs a week just in 1 week in late October. That's according to ADP. Wage growth is also slowing. How much does this concern you? And again, John said it earlier, underlying, we do have a somewhat stable economy. But when we get these new clues, when we get numbers, they're concerning.
We have pockets of strength, Steph. You know, the labor market itself, as you just pointed out, is weakening. And if you look back, the president keeps saying that this is the best economy in the history of the country, even better than his first term. We're averaging 80,000 jobs before we know any new data per month this year. Last year, we averaged 180,000 jobs created per month. The year before that, 250,000 jobs per month. So labor force is getting smaller, both in terms of demand and supply of labor, and it is weakening at the same time. So it is extremely concerning. And the Federal Reserve has taken note, and they may, and this is a coin toss,